Hey folks, this video is actually being made by request. This was a request from someone whom I know. Some people watch my videos for reasons which are unclear to me, and I guess somebody wanted to see me talk about a particular topic. I honestly, I don't know why people like videos like this, because you can read something much more quickly than a person can speak about something. I usually hate watching videos like this myself, because whatever a person says, in however long it takes them to say it, I can read that same information in like a few minutes. I mean, what a person can say in like an hour, I could read in probably 10 minutes or even less than that. So I usually prefer to read, and I have written some things in the past on a blog, but people don't like to read it because I guess people just don't like reading things. So, people don't want to take 10 minutes to read something. They're like, oh no, I can't read that. That's too long. But watching a video of me talking for an hour, that's okay. Lots of people want to do that. So, I mean, I'm not complaining necessarily. I don't want to be ungrateful for the people who enjoy watching my videos. I just think that videos like this are not necessarily the most efficient way to communicate ideas, but some people like watching me, so okay, sure, I'll talk about stuff since people apparently like to watch it. So as I say, somebody asked me to make a video. The particular person in question is a young woman whom I know who was... I'm not going to get into details, but let's say that she was taken advantage of by a man that she knows in a way which was not particularly gentlemanly. And she asked basically, what do you think about that? Like, what are your thoughts on that? How do you protect yourself? How can you protect yourself from predators who might try to take advantage of a person who perhaps doesn't know better? I don't know that I really have a good answer to that, other than to say, be careful. And unfortunately, you can't really trust people. There's that saying, you can never really trust anyone, not even yourself. And I generally agree with that idea. Obviously, there are some people that you can trust more than others. I think some people are more trustworthy than others. But you can never trust anyone 100%. You can never be absolutely sure of what a person is going to do or not going to do, because even if you know somebody pretty well, even if you've known somebody for 20 years or even longer and gotten to know them pretty well, people will often surprise you. People will often do things that you were not expecting them to do. And that's true of you yourself. At least if I speak for myself, I can certainly say I've done things that, often things that I'm not very proud of to remember today. I've done things that I never would have thought that I would do or could do, because, circumstances were such that again, I don't want to get into long-winded details of things that I've done, but I have certainly made mistakes in my life. I've certainly done things in my life that I regret, things that I really never would have thought that I would be capable of, because I was in a situation or in a mental state where I was not really thinking clearly, and that tends to be the nature of the human being, and that's the nature of life. Your life will sometimes put you in situations where you're very stressed out, you're under a lot of pressure or emotional distress or whatever else, is, maybe medical problems, whatever is happening to you in your life. You'll have situations where you're not really thinking clearly, where you're not really thinking normally or rationally, and you may find yourself doing things that you never thought that you could do or would do or should do. And that's normal. Or I guess I shouldn't say it's normal. those are hopefully abnormal situations. Those are hopefully not typical situations, not everyday situations. But those things happen to everyone. Everybody has those moments in life. And so when they happen to you, I say when they happen, not if they happen, but when they will happen to you, you know, you might surprise yourself. And I have surprised myself. I think probably other people have as well. I know for sure many people have. So my short answer is you can never really trust anyone 100%. And that may sound very cynical. That may sound like I'm saying, you know, some people adopt this sort of paranoid approach to life where they say, you know, I'm never going to trust anyone. Trust is a weakness. I'm never going to allow anyone to do anything that they could, you know, allow anyone any sort of opportunity to take advantage of me. I think if you take this very paranoid sort of approach to life, you kind of destroy your life because it basically eliminates the possibility of having any meaningful relationships or even friendships. There's no relationship between two people, even just a friendship. There's no friendship between two people without some level of trust. And I'm not saying you don't have to trust people 100%. I think you should, like I said, I don't think you should trust people 100% because people will sometimes surprise you. Even your best friends can betray you, you know, stab you in the back. And even if it's not something like that, even if it's not a deliberate, premeditated betrayal, at least certainly people can surprise you or disappoint you, let's say, by doing things that you were not expecting them to do in a way that maybe creates problems for you in your life. So you can't trust anyone 100%. But I think there are some people that you could trust maybe like, let's say 90%. And I think if you can trust somebody 90%, if you can trust them most of the time to do the right thing, to do things that, you know, would be reasonable and appropriate to do, I think you can still be friends with that person. Or even, you know, more than friends, you know, get into a relationship or marry that person. I mean, you can marry somebody. You don't have to trust a person completely to marry them. You know, people have these idealized ideas about marriage and think, you know, marriage is whatever. I don't think you have to 100% trust somebody to marry them. You just need to trust them enough. You need to trust them enough to be willing to connect your life with theirs in a way that marriage is. And, you know, I'm not going to get into a big talk about relationships now. That is something I would actually like to talk about in a future video. Because, again, this woman, you know, she was taken advantage of. Just to be clear, I don't mean she was raped. She was not raped, but there was a guy who basically tried to get her into a situation where they could be alone together for... Again, I'm not going to get into the details, but you know, it didn't go quite as far as a rape, but it was something that, like, something sort of going into a direction that was not appropriate. And do I have any specific advice about how to avoid that? Not really. I mean, obviously there are a lot of very horny men in the world. Obviously there are a lot of guys who don't respect women very well, who will try to take advantage of women if women are in a vulnerable situation, which is very unfortunate. And to be fair, women do that too. I mean, women also may try to take advantage of people, but typically, you know, in most cases it's men, right? I mean, in most cases when you hear about stuff like this happening, it's probably a man. Women can do it. Women have done it. There have been cases where women do something like that, but it's usually a guy. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to make a video about that. I want at some point to make a video about the differences between men and women, because I believe that there are differences between men and women. You know, we live in a culture today which sort of teaches us that men and women are equal. You know, they're kind of the same, and that there are not really any differences between men and women. I would not agree with that. I think that there are significant differences between how men and women approach life and think about, you know, relationships and things like that. But that's a topic for another video. I'm thinking about making a video about that at some point in the maybe not too distant future, but that's not really the topic of this video. This video is more about just trust and I guess to a certain extent, you could say manipulation, like how people manipulate each other. So the woman that I talked to, who asked me to make this video, she asked me to talk about that book. It's called, I guess, yeah. So the book is called The 48 Laws of Power by the author's name is Robert Greene, Greene with an E on the end. I hear a lot about this book. I don't really know why. It seems to be very popular. I don't really get why it's that big of a deal, because the ideas in the book seem fairly obvious to me. And they're kind of... I don't want to say the ideas themselves are necessarily bad, but they're just kind of... The whole mentality behind these ideas is just kind of... disturbing in a way that's I mean, if you don't know the book, it's basically a book with 48 laws of power. I mean, basically it's 48 tips for how to take advantage of people and how to manipulate people. And like I said, I hear a lot about it. I've heard this book mentioned many times. It seems to be fairly popular. A lot of people ask me what I think about it for some reason. I don't know why. I'm kind of reminded of a video that I saw some time ago. Was it John Oliver? I think it might have been on John Oliver's show or something like that, where they're basically saying, why is Ayn Rand still a thing? Ayn Rand being, of course, the Soviet-American writer. She was born in the Soviet Union, later immigrated to America and lived there the rest of her life. Famous for books like Atlas Shrugged, The Fountainhead, and so on. And they asked, why is Ayn Rand still a thing? Why is she so popular? Why do people still read her books and talk about them? Because her books are so obviously ridiculous. Well, her books are ridiculous. I think Ayn Rand had not a very strong relationship with reality. I think in many cases she didn't really understand how the world really works, and her books, which were... she founded this whole philosophy called objectivism, like where she was basically taking an objective look at reality instead of whatever other people supposedly do. But it's kind of ridiculous because her supposed objective worldview was also very subjective. It was obviously her subjective worldview. It was not objective at all, in my opinion. But her books are still read because they have some important ideas. I wouldn't say that I agree with everything she says. I don't know if I'd even agree with half of what she says. But there are at least some important ideas there. And as a person who grew up in the Soviet Union, which was obviously a communist state, she had some opinions about communism which were important to be expressed. Some very strongly anti-communist ideas. And she was very pro-capitalism and all that, and I'm not saying those ideas are necessarily valid, but anyway, I'm not going to get into it. But the point is, people still read Ayn Rand because, people think that way. There are people who think that way. People find that her words resonate with them, and if people like what she had to write, then they'll read what she has to write. So this book, The 48 Laws of Power, is kind of the same thing. I think frankly, it's kind of a stupid book. It really impresses me as a very childish book. Like, it's the kind of book that I think mostly disenchanted teenagers would read to sort of feel like they have some kind of power. I think it's a book that people would read if they feel powerless in their own lives and want to do something to kind of make themselves feel like they're in control of their lives. So I think, above all, it's probably a book read by young men, like men in their late teens or early 20s probably, who don't feel like they're in control of their lives and want to get ahead by figuring out how to manipulate other people. So I'm not going to obviously read the whole book now, but if I take a look at the book, the laws that, these 48 laws that it lists are kind of ridiculous. Like the second law says, never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. Be wary of friends. They will betray you more quickly They become spoiled and tyrannical. But hire a former enemy, and he'll be more loyal than a friend because he has more to prove. In fact, you have more to fear from friends than from enemies. If you have no enemies, find a way to make them. Now, I don't know how many people really have enemies. I mean, I don't think I have enemies in the world, in my life. I mean, certainly I have people who I can think of who maybe I don't like that much personally. I mean, obviously I like some people more than other people. There are some people whom I like less. Sure, everybody, that's normal. You like some people more, you like some people less. But even if I really don't like somebody, I don't have any reason to consider them my enemy. I can just try to avoid that person. Even if it's somebody at work, it's a typical situation is, in the workplace, you have a hard time getting away with people if you have to work with them at your job every day. I have some people at my job whom I sometimes have some difficulties with. I may not like those people personally, but I wouldn't say those people are my enemies. They're just people who have different ideas, and it's like I don't feel this need to categorize people as friends or enemies, or people are who they are, and if I have issues with someone, I'll try to work with those issues. I'll try to work out those issues as best I can. But even if those issues can't be resolved, I have no reason to think of somebody as an enemy or get this sort of mindset that I'm going to try to get at that person, try to get revenge on them or something. I mean, all of this is just to me a very childish, sort of immature way of thinking about things. Thinking about enemies and how am I going to get revenge on my enemies. To me, that's such a childish way of thinking. That's why I say again, the whole book is written from such an infantile sort of perspective. I would say that I don't necessarily see a lot of value in the book because it is so childish and so ridiculous. But just as with Ayn Rand, I think the book has a certain place in human society because there are people who think this way. Even if the ideas are kind of stupid, there are people who think that way. And if nothing else, I guess the book is kind of useful so that you can be aware of these ideas and so you can be aware when someone else is trying to manipulate you. Because if you know that people try to do these things, a lot of people have read this book, so I'm going to assume a lot of people are aware of these 48 laws because a lot of people have read this book. So you can assume that a lot of people will know these laws and maybe try to use them on you. So I guess it's useful in that sense to know about these laws so that you can recognize when somebody's trying to manipulate you. And that sort of brings me into the larger topic of manipulation. What does it mean to manipulate another person? Is it good or bad? Is it ethical to try to manipulate other people? So let me say about that, and this is again this is part of what the young woman asked me to talk about in the video. She asked me to talk about this book and what are my thoughts about it. How do I feel about this whole idea of manipulating people in this way? So my answer is I don't think that it's inherently bad to try to manipulate people. When you describe a person, when you hear a person being described as manipulative, it's usually meant in a negative way. It's usually meant to imply that they are somehow very selfish, very ego-driven, and that they try to take advantage of other people by playing with their emotions or whatever. It can certainly mean that, but in a larger sense, being manipulative just means trying to somehow have an effect on people. And it's not. I think it's not necessarily bad to try to influence people, let's say. An example is, I talked in my previous video about bad habits, about things like, trying to quit smoking, for example, is a typical example. Very often, if you care about somebody, whether it's a friend or a family member or whatever, who is a smoker, you may try to convince them to stop smoking for their personal health. And if you do that, you will probably try to employ some kind of psychology to try to convince them. Or if you think about, I think in most of the world, when you buy cigarettes now, there are those horrible pictures and warnings on cigarette packs. You know, whenever I go to the supermarket and see the cigarettes on sale there are pictures of like children with birth defects, people with horrible medical issues, you know, people with blackened lungs and whatever, all warnings about the dangers of smoking tobacco. That's kind of manipulative, isn't it? You're trying to basically manipulate the emotions of people to help them realize these are risks of smoking cigarettes, smoking tobacco. So that's manipulative. It's trying to get people to feel a certain way, to have a certain sort of emotional reaction to the things in those warnings. But is that bad? I don't think it's morally wrong to do that. It's manipulative. It's certainly trying to create an emotional response in people, but I wouldn't say it's morally reprehensible or wrong. So, you know, it's not necessarily bad to be manipulative in the sense of trying to convince people of a certain idea. I mean, I think one could fairly say that I'm being manipulative right now. I'm manipulating you folks watching this video by making this video because I'm saying things to you, and I'm not just saying these things because I love the sound of my own voice. I'm saying these things in the hopes that people will understand what I'm saying and perhaps agree with me. So, you know, I'm trying to convince you folks to a certain extent of what I'm saying, that what I'm saying is true. And yeah, I think that you could make the case, I think it's a valid case, that any kind of attempt to influence a person or convince a person is in a way manipulation. It is a psychological manipulation. And I don't think that that's inherently bad. Again, I don't think that what I'm doing, I mean, in making this video for you, the viewers, I don't think that I'm doing something morally wrong or hurtful to anyone by doing this. But in a sense, I am manipulating you because I am trying to convince you of something, of what I'm saying. So, you know, it's not bad to necessarily try to manipulate people in some way. I think it's not even necessarily bad to lie to people. You know, liars have a bad reputation. Lying has a bad reputation. But you can think of so many examples where people have, I think, valid reasons for lying. I mean, a classic example, or, you know, an example that's happened to me personally many times is, you know, two people have maybe you have two mutual acquaintances, whether they're friends or people at work or family members or whatever, and two people have a personal dispute between themselves, but they're both your friends. So you are friends with both people. They get along well with you, but they don't get along well with each other. And one of them might say something very, very negative or insulting or disparaging about the other person. If that other person later asks you, hey, did that person say anything about me? What do you tell them? Do you tell them, no? Or do you tell them, oh, yeah, they said that you're fat and stupid and ugly and they hate you? That would be the honest answer, maybe, but is that serving anyone's interests? Is it serving anyone? Is it helping anyone? Is it making the world a better place if you say, yeah, actually, they said that they really hate you and they can't stand to be around you and they think that you're stupid and they hope they never see your ugly face again? Is that a good thing to say? I wouldn't say it. I would just say, no, they didn't say anything. Because what's the point? What's the point in saying something that's only going to hurt a person's feelings and create more animosity, create more negativity where there's already obviously a personal feud between people? I see no reason to do that. I see no purpose in doing that. And I don't think that I'm being a bad person for lying if I say, no, they didn't say anything. I don't feel that that's wrong. In fact, I think it's the right thing to do. I think it would be wrong to tell the truth in that situation. So, you know, people get all these ideas about honesty, and they say honesty is the best policy, and it's a sin to tell a lie, and whatever. I don't agree with that. In fact, I had another kind of a similar example, but I had an example that I remember from a few years ago. When I had a girlfriend, we had a mutual friend. My girlfriend and I, we both knew this woman. Let's just call her Alice. Not her name, but let's just call her Alice for this discussion. And Alice had recently broken up with her boyfriend because he had been treating her very badly. Again, not going to go into the details, but let's say he was treating her quite, not well. And so we saw Alice, and we talked to her about some things, and she left. And like 10 minutes later, her now ex-boyfriend shows up and asks my girlfriend, "Have you seen Alice?" And my girlfriend just told him, "No, haven't seen her for a while." That was a lie, but I understood why she said it, because this guy was obviously looking for Alice. He was probably upset that she'd broken up with him, and we both knew that he had been treating her like trash. And I think my girlfriend was justified in telling him, "No, we haven't seen her, don't know where she is." What I want to say with that, what really struck me was I actually realized that I trusted that girlfriend of mine. I trusted her because she lied. It may sound paradoxical. I trusted her because she had lied about that. What if she'd been honest and said, "Yeah, I just saw Alice 10 minutes ago. She's over there, or she went that way." Would that be a good thing to do? The guy was probably gonna, I don't know, maybe he wanted to try to do something nice to her and make up with her, but I had a feeling that he, and I guess my girlfriend did as well, that he was just gonna probably do something to hurt her. He was probably gonna try to get some revenge on her, whatever. So it struck me that these people who say that you should always be honest, those are, perhaps paradoxically, people that you can't really trust, because they have no concept of I don't know if it sounds a little bit overdramatic or if it's exaggerating to say they don't have any concept of reality, but at least they don't seem to understand the effects of their words. They don't seem to understand that words have effects. The things that you say can have impacts on other people's lives. And if you say something that's going to hurt another person, maybe what you say is true. But if you just say, "Well, I was just being honest, I only told the truth," I probably would trust that person less. Honestly, if somebody just always says, "Always just be 100% honest, never hide the truth," I would probably trust that person less than a person who knows how to lie. And I actually found that I trusted my girlfriend more after that, because I understood that she knew how to lie for the right reasons, not to hurt people. She didn't lie to hurt people or take advantage of people, but exactly for the opposite reason, to try to protect people. She was trying to protect Alice from this abusive ex-boyfriend that she had. So, I think that, I was, and I was happy to be with a girlfriend like that, because even though she was a liar, I thought that actually gave me reason to trust her. Because she was not a cruel person. She was not an evil person. She was not lying for evil, hurtful reasons, but just the opposite. She was lying to protect our friend. And I guess sort of the classic example, one example that often gets brought out in discussions like this is, if you think back to World War II, the Holocaust, imagine that you're hiding a family of Jews in your house somewhere, and some Nazi stormtroopers or whatever come to your house and say, "Are you hiding Jews in your house?" Well, are you going to say, "Oh, yes, actually, now that you mention it, since you asked, yeah, there's a family of Jews hiding in my basement. Thanks for asking"? That would be the truthful answer. That would be the honest answer. Are you doing the right thing by giving that answer? I don't really think you are. If you're just saying, "Yeah, they're hiding in that room over there behind the closet. I cannot tell a lie," I don't think you're necessarily doing the morally right thing by giving that answer. So, I'm not saying that you should just lie about everything and, you just freely lie and, not consider any consequences of it. But the flip side of that is there are also consequences for telling the truth. Things you say, even if they are truthful, they can hurt other people. They can harm other people. They can compromise other people. They can create problems for other people. And you need to consider the impact of your words when you speak to people, when you tell things to people. And I don't think that a person is trustworthy if they just say, you always have to be honest, because those are the people who will stab you in the back, honestly. Those people will actually betray you in the end with the excuse, well, I was just being honest. I just told the truth. Why are you upset at me? What did I do wrong? I just told the truth. What's the problem? I think a much better friend is somebody who knows how to use the truth and how to lie, again, not for hurtful purposes, not lying to hurt people, not lying to take advantage of people, to deceive them in a way that would harm them, but exactly the opposite, in a way that would protect people who need to be protected because they're vulnerable. I think that I would trust a person like that much more. So yeah, it's not bad to lie necessarily, but yeah, you need to be aware of what you're doing. You need to be aware of the reasons for the things that you do. This is kind of going. I'm kind of reminded sometimes of that book by Nietzsche. Nietzsche, of course, was a philosopher. He wrote a book with the title Beyond Good and Evil. That's the English translated title, Beyond Good and Evil. What he meant with that, what he meant with Beyond Good and Evil, is that if we're going to develop a sense of morality, if we're going to develop a sense of personal ethics as human beings, we need to go beyond just simple ideas of good and bad. Children may be taught it's bad to tell a lie. When you're a child, your parents might have told you, always be honest. Honesty is the best policy. It's a sin to tell a lie, or if you're not religious, then at least, don't lie. Never tell a lie. It's bad. It's bad to tell a lie. But these sort of simplistic ideas of that's good, that's bad, always do this, never do that. This is a very simplistic ideology. And maybe it's okay for children. Maybe if it's like a very small child that you're teaching, maybe a very simple sort of morality is where it starts. Maybe you start off like that. But as the child grows up and matures into an adult, at some point we need to adopt a more mature mentality, a more mature morality. And that means not just simplistically saying, oh, tell the truth, just always be honest. Why would you lie about something? I think that's a very childish mentality. And when you grow up, you should grow out of that mentality and realize that it's not just black and white. The line between right and wrong is not so simple. There are reasons why people might do something bad, which I think are valid. And I think that it's not bad, it's not evil or wrong to do those things if you're in a situation that justifies them. I'm not saying that you should just totally disregard the truth and just just lie whenever it's convenient for you. That's why lying has a bad reputation, because people will lie sometimes just because it's convenient for them. It's easier for them, or it creates a better situation for them if they can dupe somebody into believing something that's not true. That's why liars have a bad reputation. I hate liars who lie to take advantage of people, who lie to abuse people or to exploit people in some way. That's why liars have a bad reputation. But there are good and valid reasons for lying. And I have also been lied to by people, sometimes by people whom I was close to. And in most cases, I forgave them because I understood they had reasons for lying. Sometimes people lie because, I don't know, because they're scared, or because they're weak, or various other reasons. Sometimes maybe they lied because they were ashamed of something. People are flawed. People make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. And I usually forgave people for that, because I understand that, people make mistakes. Sometimes people it's hard for them to tell the truth. Sometimes they just don't have the courage to talk about something honestly. Okay, I can understand that. It's not a great situation, but not everybody can be strong all the time. Not everybody can face the truth all the time. But I never forgave people who lied to me to take advantage of me. Never, ever. That's like the one thing that I will not forgive. And the thing is, some of those people are still my friends. Friends. You can be friends with someone, even if you don't trust them. It just means that you shouldn't entrust them with anything. You shouldn't tell them anything that could be, could be compromising if you think that they might tell it to someone else. I can still be friends with people whom I don't trust. I am still friends with people whom I don't trust. I just make sure never to trust them. And I don't think that I will ever trust them again, because that tends to be the nature of trust. Once a person has been betrayed once, one's trust has been destroyed once with somebody, you can't really reestablish it. You can't really rebuild trust anymore. That's just how things are. So I may still, meet with people, do things with people, and I can still enjoy my time with people. I'll just make sure that I never trust them, that I never put myself in a situation where I am somehow dependent on them in a way that puts me at risk, because I know that person's not trustworthy. That simple. So, again, you can never really trust anyone, not even yourself. And like I was saying before, I don't really have friends or enemies. There are some people I trust more. There are some people I trust less. There are some people I like more. There are some people I like less. But even people whom I mostly trust, like I said, there are some people I would trust, like let's say 90%. Even those people, I know they might do some things someday that, that wouldn't be very good for me. I mean, you never know. You never know what people will do. And even the people whom I don't trust or whom I don't like, I'm sure they have some negative qualities as well. And nobody is a perfect angel, and nobody is an absolute Satan all the time. I mean, everybody has good and bad qualities. So, that's the thing. And I don't even mean that people might necessarily deliberately try to hurt me. I mean, it's one thing if somebody deliberately tries to hurt you, tries to stab you in the back. That's especially hurtful. That's especially upsetting if it happens from someone whom you once trusted. But often people do it accidentally. People sometimes just accidentally say things about you to other people that were supposed to be private. And, they didn't necessarily mean to hurt you. They just couldn't keep their mouth shut and just accidentally said something which was not for other people's attention. And I'm fairly fortunate in that I don't care too much about what other people think about me. Like, I don't really care if people know my secrets. I don't really have secrets, but there are obviously things about my life that I wouldn't want to be public knowledge. There are things that I would prefer to keep private just because they're private matters. But if somebody, whether intentionally or accidentally reveals something about me that's supposed to be private, it's not the end of the world. Like, it doesn't mean it doesn't necessarily negatively impact my life. It just feels hurtful when somebody does that, when somebody shares things that were supposed to be private. And again, I've done it myself accidentally. I don't think I've ever intentionally revealed somebody's secrets to hurt them, but there are certainly things that I didn't realize were secret or that I didn't understand were supposed to be, private. And when I said those things, and you feel bad afterwards, and it's unfortunate when it happens, but if you know somebody who has some difficulties keeping their mouth shut, then you just can't tell things to that person. You can't share personal secrets with that person because they might talk too much and let slip something that was supposed to be private. So the basic question that this young woman asked me is, how can we protect ourselves? How can we deal with selfish, manipulative people who want to take advantage of us? I guess the simple answer is just be careful. Understand that you can't really trust anyone 100%. Anyone can lie to you. Anyone can trick you. Anyone can betray you. And again, it might not even necessarily be intentional. I mean, of course, it can be intentional. Some people will deliberately betray you, but it might be accidental. Some people are just naive or careless or inattentive or, frankly, just not very intelligent, and they might say things that, that may harm you in one way or another. So, just be careful. Understand that people are this way. And if you're going to share something very personal with a person, then make sure that you know them first. Make sure that you know that person well enough that you're confident they can keep a secret before sharing your secrets with them. I don't think I have a more complicated answer than that. So, that's all.